Hello and welcome back to the ins and outs of sex. As usual, I am Chris and this is Katrina, and we're going to be taking you through the most awkward parts of sexual encounters and trying to make them a little less awkward for you. As you can see, I'm already mortified about the subject for today, which is blowjobs. We have looked up. Do you know why I'm mortified? It's because before this we were looking up terminology for blowjobs, and even Google didn't know what a blowjob was. It was like there's a blowjob, there's fellatio, which is like an upper class blowjob. That's one you do in a Michelin star restaurant. Working class people, it's blowjobs. Rich people, it's fellatio. And then it said cunnilingus, which isn't a blow. So even Google was confused about it. And for those of you that don't know what cunnilingus is, you're probably in for a divorce soon. So, Katrina, do you want to tell everyone what a blowjob is?
Thank you, Chris. I'm laughing, but your last point is potentially fairly accurate, unfortunately.
You've got to give and receive. You've got to give and receive. It's
exactly
equal. Everything should be equal.
Absolutely. So blowjobs. We're talking about performing oral sex on the male partner. Now, the reason why I wanted to chat about blowjobs is because some clients have came to me, and during the sessions we discussed the fact that they struggle with actually giving blowjobs to their partners, and we talked about that, and there seems to have been a bit of a theme in terms of blowjobs and how to give them and why some women struggle with these. And I thought it might be good to just have a chat about blowjobs and give some suggestions, some ideas, and also a little bit of practical knowledge in terms of the actual anatomy.
Yeah, makes sense. I'd also say at this point in this juncture that this advice is also it isn't just for straight couples. This isn't just for heterosexual couples. It's just that the example you're using from your client is a heterosexual couple. So if you are at home and you are in a two masculine presenting couples, so two men or with masculine genitalia couples or a homosexual couple, this is probably going to apply to you as well. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So just wanted to clarify that because we want to make sure that because I think that insecurities come no matter what gender you are. So we
absolutely
can always have that. But yes, we're only using this example because your client is a heterosexual couple. So yes, what more, please? No, more information.
Absolutely. So the basic aspect of any intimacy, any sexual encounters, obviously hygiene, and therefore I'm just going to kind of bypass that part, assuming that is not an issue. We sort of went a little bit deeper into what were the problems, and with the couples with whom I spoke about blowjobs, with the ladies who came to me, we specifically focused on the aspect of the gag reflex. Well. And the idea that they had this idea that when it comes to actual blowjob, you're supposed to literally swallow the entire thing. Right. And given that some men can be very well endowed, and equally some partners, whether it be female or male, can have a very, very, very sensitive gag reflex.
Yep.
The two will become very difficult.
Yes.
And the two will basically come to a head, and not in a good way, and create a problem.
Yes.
So we spoke about the issue of gag reflex because let's face it, nothing screams erotic and hot as gagging on somebody as you're going down
it's uncomfortable for both.
So hot.
Yeah.
So the best way to sort of look at blowjobs in general is to start by actually appreciating the anatomy and the anatomy of the penis. We look at the penis as, dare I say, perhaps in our minds, a bit of a less complex organ than, say, female reproductive systems and clitoris and vagina. Nevertheless, there are certain spots which are more sensitive than others. And the one spot in particular is the frenulum, which is the tissue in the base of the penis head,
Right.
where the skin kind of forms a bunch of nerves that connect to the foreskin. And
Okay.
it's on the sort of underside of the penis, so to speak. That is an incredibly sensitive area. And in fact, in most men, that particular area is responsible for arousal and ejaculation.
Right. Okay. So that explains
So,
why, if people have been like circumcised, they're less sensitive. Yeah.
can be, not always the case.
Yes. Fair enough. Yeah, you make a good point. But just
Some people become more sensitive after being circumcised, but you're absolutely right. There is a risk with circumcision, or actually more often, there is a surgery, which name I can't pronounce, but it's slightly more advanced than circumcision, where actually the frenulum is removed completely, and it's when the foreskin, it's too tight when the man is fully aroused and fully hard, and you have to basically remove it for the sake of the man being able to have an orgasm and be fully erect. In that surgery where the frenulum is severed or removed, that's more likely to cause some loss of sensitivity than circumcision. But equally, there have been men who've reported to have increased sensitivity. So
fair enough.
It's it's not a sort of clear-cut science, so to speak, pun intended. But when partners realize that it is that small fraction, that small area where the nerves and the tendons are, and or nerves, I should say, that is responsible for arousal and ejaculation, you suddenly realize that in order to give a good blowjob, you do not have to swallow the whole damn thing.
No,
because
it doesn't sound like you have to.
No, if you focus on the head of the penis and focus on stimulation of the frenulum with your tongue, whilst keeping the hands on the shaft, you can give just as good of a blowjob as if you were to, or even if not better, than if you were to actually deep throat, which is literally swallowing the whole thing.
Yeah, I can't see that being comfortable for the person doing it. I can see it being comfortable for the other person, but I can't see it being comfortable for the person doing it. So this is a better way of doing it. So we're saying stick to the top, frenulum, and that's the. Is it just that simple? There's nothing more to it than that. Have you got?
So this is the basics, and this is the basic basal anatomy. And dare I say that even when you, from the physical perspective, if somebody tries to swallow the entire penis, there is no way, or it becomes very difficult to actually stimulate the frenulum, because your tongue is likely going to be stuck flat in order to be able to take the penis in the mouth.
Yeah.
And this I know from, surprise, surprise, sword swallowers. And even they say, that trying to desensitize your gag reflex can be a challenge. I think the deep throating mostly has the visual appeal, the visual aspect of taking the whole penis in the mouth. So this is the basic, this is the sort of the key thing when it comes to anatomy. Now, the second major component of good, satisfying blowjob is the one that takes more work, and that is the connection between the two people. And that is the conversation about what the other person likes and how they like it. Because everybody is going to have slightly different preferences. Some people will prefer very tight squeeze with the hands on the shaft. Some people prefer less of a squeeze, more of a friction of the hand moving up and down. Some people will say that they like a bit more teeth. Some people are very sensitive and the teeth is absolute no-no.
Yeah.
Some men like their balls being fondled whilst they're getting a blowjob. Some absolutely no. They are too sensitive and the focus is to be just on the penis. So the second main component, once you understand the physical aspect and the anatomical aspect, is the communication and the relationship between the couple.
Yes. I think communication is really, really important. And I have to be honest, I am trying my best not to giggle like a schoolboy every time you say things like balls or shaft. So it is my comedian senses are just firing and I am biting my tongue. But it's very important. You have to communicate. You have to talk about what each other likes in all situations. I think that this is going to be through all of these episodes. Communication is always going to be key. Find out what they like. You wouldn't serve them food they were allergic to. That's what I always think. You would have that conversation and you wouldn't find that conversation awkward. You'd be like, yes, I'm allergic to peanuts. I don't like peanuts. Whereas you're like, I'm far too sensitive down there. Don't do that. That would be really hard for you to say. So I think that communication is going to be the biggest. It is. Let's not have a think in there. Let's say communication is the biggest key to all of this. Make sure you're talking to your partner. They're the ones doing it. You can't get the project done without one of you has to be the manager, one of you has to be the project manager, the other one has to be the mechanic, and then swap. That's it.
Absolutely.
That's my idea. That's it.
And any good mechanic will tell you that there's more than one way to check that something in the engine ain't working or is working. So if somebody perhaps is a bit apprehensive about saying outright and laying things out, that's okay. That's not necessarily easy for everybody, depending on what beliefs people have, what experiences people have. Some people may not even know what they like and don't like. So this communication does, it's not like you have a freaking questionnaire. So here's a questionnaire about how to perform a blowjob on you. Can you please tick all the activities you'd like me to perform and score out the ones that you don't enjoy? No, nobody does that.
They should.
So it could be useful, yes. But if somebody is hesitant, here is what I would say, right? What about writing a letter or a note or something, putting it in writing in some way, shape, or form, and just letting your partner read it when they are not with you, so that you can lay it all out. And if you're afraid maybe of the reaction, or like are embarrassed, try and write it out and hand it over. If that's too much, then make it into a game and take your time and actually try different things when you're with your partner and watch the reaction and read your partner. If you don't know each other well enough, or maybe you're scared, you won't be able to read your partner as well, because some people may not be as expressive. Like I'm very expressive, like you can tell by my face, if I'm in a meeting and I'm pissed off. God, I should never play poker. But you can make it into a game and say to your partner to give you maybe a hand signal, some sort of signal that will suggest not liking this, or thumbs up, keep going, I'm loving this, I'm loving the way you're doing this, something like that. And go into this little fun journey of learning about what does work. Does kissing work? Does sucking work? A little bit of teeth, licking, grabbing a bit harder, a little bit less harder, moving faster, moving slower. So many possibilities, so many ways to stimulate, so many things that can be done. But everybody's different. Everybody has their own preference. So even if somebody thought, and listen, I've been there myself. In previous relationship, my partner had quite specific preferences in terms of how to give a blowjob. With the next partner, I didn't assume that he would like the same thing.
No.
And I actually asked him, to his surprise, how do you like it done? What do you like? He was first a bit like, I don't know, normally. And I was like, what does normally mean to you? He still wasn't sure. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna give you a blowjob and I'm gonna watch your body. I'm gonna watch your eyes, look at you and observe your reactions. And I could tell. And then afterwards, we actually talked about it and he said, oh, actually, there was one moment when you used a bit of teeth and I didn't quite like that. I'm a bit too sensitive. And I was like, cool, I'll not do that next time.
Yeah.
So he was actually able to, because he saw that I was comfortable with him telling me what he liked. He then actually afterwards told me.
Yeah, yeah. That's something I don't think anyone does. I don't think many people do that. And I think that knowing what you like is really unusual. Because I think that unless you have, like you say, you'd just be like, normal ones? Any? Any. Is any a good answer? Some. What type of blowjobs do you like? Some. I like some, but that's what I mean. It's just, and it's the same goes for everything. With things like that, communication is key. It's very hard. I don't know how expressive I am while you're talking about this to the camera. I don't know how, if people can read my face, but I am trying my best, A, not to giggle, and B, also not to curl into, because it's not stuff I normally talk about. So, but you should. And I love the idea of the letter. I love the idea of writing down what you like, because it takes away that awkward moment where because you don't want to tell your partner, you don't want to say to your partner, oh, I really like this, and them go, like, that would be the worst thing. It's just them going like that, and it would make you go, oh no, and pull back. You should have that conversation with your partner. Do I like these things? You like these things? And also, if it's a long-term partner, I mean, short-term is fine, but I think that short-term's a bit harder. But if it's a long-term partner, you should have a conversation, because and you can have a more in-depth conversation about trying all sorts. I mean, you should, shouldn't you? Because otherwise, if it's a long-term forever partner, which, this day and age is not as common as it used to be, but if it's a long-term forever partner, you're never going to get to do it again. So you might as well, like, you never get that conversation. Also, I think that something that people like that doesn't get covered a lot is that your taste can change.
Absolutely. That was actually straight where my mind went, where you said, if you're with a long-term partner, because the preference for things can absolutely change.
Yeah.
And that can be down to age, that can be down to experiences, down to hormonal changes. There can be a number of factors that will change your preference for things.
Yeah.
And since we spoke about food earlier, like say allergy to peanuts, you can develop allergies at any age.
Yep.
Your preference for certain foods can change with age, with experiences, etc., etc. Same can be said for sex. It's like any other area of life. So I would say that when it's your long-term partner, dare I say, it's probably even more important that you actually develop some sort of mechanism, some sort of idea, something that works for the two of you, to check in with each other every once in a while.
Yes.
And see how things have changed. Like I often, when we're talking about these kind of changes and preferences, I will give an example of myself. And that was actually, and this is just to show, the significance of this. When I was going through puberty, before puberty, I used to do public speaking, and I was a badass, not threatening at all. I was confident. It was just like, meh, whatever, not a problem. I could just go up and do it, stand in front of hundreds, thousands of people and do it, and I was fine. Puberty hit me. The first time round, I was told to go up and speak, and it was just in front of my class, 20 people. I was shitting myself. I didn't know what was happening. I was like, I'm too young to have a heart attack. But what the fuck is happening with me? I was red like my top I'm wearing just now. I was sweating. My hands were shaking. I forgot what the hell I was going to say. I choked at the 2 words. I went crying back to my seat and I didn't want to speak to anybody. That's how much hormones affected something like public speaking.
Yeah.
Now, here we're talking about something that hormones have major effect on, our sex lives. And hormones can fluctuate throughout our lives for various reasons. So it only stands to reason that even just that can have an effect on how our preference for something changes.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, I'm going to, I think we've covered most things. I think that we'll have, let's just sum it up. We'll say, I'm not going to go back over the techniques that you discussed, but they were big at the beginning of this. If you've missed it, I don't know why you'd skip to the end. There's techniques covered, conversation with a partner. Sometimes you can change and you shouldn't be ashamed of your change. I just want to bring up one last thing before we go. And I think that, I think I'm going to bring it up a bunch of times during this series, but do not listen to porn. Never listen to porn. Porn is to sex what the Fast and the Furious is to driving on a motorway. Do not compare the two. There's never been a time when I've thought that was educational. It's all for entertainment, everything on there. And I think that, like you said, with the putting the blowjob all the way in your mouth, look at that, I can't even say it. That is how awkward I get rid of it. The porn has a lot to answer for with that. Like, that is the thing. And I think that if anyone here is going, I am uncomfortable with performing oral sex, I have watched a porno and it's like this, and this looks like it's for me, what would you say to them, Katrina? You're the sex coach. What would you say to them if someone came to you and said, I watched porn, I saw someone do oral sex, should I do it like that? It doesn't look like it's for me. What would you say?
So I would, as a coach, I would ask them a question. And my question would be, when you walk past the cemetery, do you walk with a machete in your hand, expecting a horde of zombies to suddenly appear from underground and trying to eat your brain?
That's a fair point.
Do you?
No, but I might now. No, I don't. I don't.
Exactly. So just like any other movie, porn is scripted. Porn, well, obviously we're not talking about, homemade porn.
Yes.
Proper porn movies are great, but that's all they are, movies. They are scripted. They are performed by actors. They are not a reality. And I would go back to saying, everybody has their own preference. Everybody has their own likes and dislikes. Ask your partner.
There you go. That's a great way. That's a great place to end it on. Thank you. Well, I'm saying thank you. It's our show. I'm saying thank you like I'm interviewing you. It's our show. So that was the ins and outs of oral sex. Basics. I say basics. I think more complicated maneuvers can be achieved, but communicate with your partner first before attempting such things. I've been Chris. This has been Katrina. We'll see you next time with more of the ins and outs of sex. Catch you later.